we go. And we are live. Yay. So, welcome everybody to the Not Safe for Work Writing Panel, what NSFW stands for. So we are here to talk about all these things and have a little bit of fun with it. And I will let Lando.
Hold up. We're going to have fun?
We are going to have fun. Come on, right?
I was going to take this very seriously.
So, I'm turning over
Pizza
to
Dragon.
Lando. Lando's going to moderate us. Don't try to. So go ahead, Lando.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to the NSFW writing panel. We got a lot of topics today, covering not only the naughtiness that we always expect when these four letters are put together in capitals, but also some things that involve the scary side, body horror, blood and gore, some stuff that might get you an R rating without actually any sort of intimacy going on.
Yes. So go ahead. Yeah. So there are like a lot of topics to go with it, and like for example, just a few things that people maybe not think about is here. Okay. So for something like violence, for example, it could be any depictions of like graphic depictions of violence, it could be abuse or gore, or substance abuse is also another thing. Anything that can trigger people, could be self-harm, for example, explicit language, could be harassment, and also another one, or bullying. Like people don't realize that they're like bullying. So could that be enough safe for work topic? Like really? But yes, anything that can trigger someone to to either harm themselves or harm somebody else, or it could be traumatic for someone to experience these things or talk about them or read about them, for example. But anything like that is not just, spicy things. So it's very broad, so kind of cool. But yeah, does anybody else have anything to add to that?
I'd add like certain depictions of death. Death can be a very NSFW thing, depending how it's handled.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to touch on it, echoing Blue's sentiment. This also covers illegal activities, the real nasty stuff, trafficking people, stealing, maybe something more that's just a little more delicate than physical items, and hacking.
Absolutely. Drugs. Yeah. Excuse me. Oh yeah, so there's plenty of things. And we include. So with the next thing, having said all that, there are plenty of, I think we covered a little bit of this in one of the other panels, but we can, for us, we covered content warnings for our writing and stuff. So content warnings are really good for, we covered this in critique group, because if we're sharing things for other people to read, we want to make sure that they are comfortable with what they're actually about to read and be able to critique it properly. So yes, we did cover that a little bit, but we'll cover it a little bit more because you have an actual book. So you can publish content warnings inside your actual book. You can also put them in your ebook as well. Very cool. It's also, so pretty much anything that you write, and you have some sort of not safe for work, you should be able to put a content warning. And you're sharing this with other people that may not be prepared to, handle it. So,
Yeah, I've always found it interesting that for a long time, books haven't really had content warnings, where movies and things and other media often does. I think it's probably a good idea to use content warnings though in your books, just so people don't start reading it thinking it's one thing and then they find content in there that they didn't expect.
well, that's why if you look at if you're looking at like fan fiction, for example, one that is really why the archive of your own is AO3. That's why it's so popular, because a lot of people put in a lot of stuff ahead of time. All these content warnings, so you kind of know what you're going to be reading, or if you're so inclined to actually looking for these warnings that you want to read, then you can look for them. So that's why it's so popular, because they're not being devised, hopefully, by books. Books have been a little bit slow with that. So, trying something with that. So yeah, so if somebody want to read that list of content warnings that we have in our notes.
Yeah, let me go through it. Give
Okay.
me just a sec. All right, so the start of this list is pretty expected, though the second one here caught me off guard. Some general content warnings include violence, animal death, blood, regular death, self-harm, alcohol, gore, murder, eating disorder, psychological abuse, racism, sexual assault, which is definitely a bad one, abortion, cruelty to animals, kidnapping, child neglect, body shaming, and substance abuse.
There's probably lots more, but those are the main ones that you
Yes.
very much want to let people know that you have. Right. Yeah. So, are there any comments about that from our other panelists? No? Okay. All right. So I guess we'll move on to the next question then. Which is the
Sure.
question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. The next question we have up regarding the not safe for work topics. How do I know if I'm taking things too far?
So, yeah, AG, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. Hi. So I'm AG. I specialize mostly in horror, but a lot of my material also has some sexual material, but mainly I deal with supernatural, uh, demonically themed horror type material. But the question that I ask myself when I'm writing, one book in mind one book that I wrote that comes to mind is a sequence that involves a lot of psychological and physical torture. So a question that I ask myself that I asked myself as I was writing is, am I being effective or am I being edgy? And I think for effective, not safe for work writing, it's pertinent to ask yourself if the content that you're writing, is it conducive to the plot, as opposed to just trying to evoke some kind of, evoke some emotional response. And I think, you can write all day long about torture porn, but of course the audience that you're going to appeal to is probably very slim. So in order to appeal to the largest possible base, I think it's important to make sure that as you're writing, what you're writing is relevant to the plot, is advancing the story, or developing the characters that you have, and exposing them to new situations, or some kind of stimulation that grows them, develops them as a character. That's that's the question I ask myself. Is it effective or edgy? And I think that's a simple and easy kind of rule of thumb.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Another way you could also help determine if you're going too far is, I think, having just other people read it, get some beta readers, ask them what they think, and if they think largely this is just a bit too much, you could dial back a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've seen some people to put in things just for like a shock factor and then be kind of proud of it, kind of thing. But you need to be able to treat these themes respectfully, especially if you're dealing with like the content warning that we have. So as long as you're aware of what you're doing, and you're not just doing it just for the sake of doing it. You are putting it in for a reason, kind of thing. But, yes, T, what is your question? Lost my list again. Oh, she's typing. Here we go. Yeah, I realize it can be definitely subjective, which is why you ask, other people, and also another reason why the editor is going to be extremely important as well, because because it'll be really good to tell you you've gone too far. Okay, so the key question is: so if you have a character that has horrible coping to deal with a big use of what word? How do I know you have too much for a character? Okay, the abuse. I think that's what your film is trying to tell us. So basically, if your character is it's really bad at coping with abuse. How do I know we've gone too far? That's the question. There we go. Does anybody have an answer for that before I? Okay. So, how do we know we've gone too far? It's basically you want to try to focus on one or two things to her that to focus on. For example, if you have a character that has this going on, that going on, that going on, that going on, it's not going to be, you're spreading yourself and your character way too thin. I realize as authors, we can be very mean to our characters. We can, we are not very sympathetic to our characters, but we have to make it so that we have a growth arc basically for our character. So if our character is always dealing with something, we should still have this character end somewhere different from where they were, if you understand what I mean. So it's just an arc that you should follow. So we need to minimize and focus on what is the most important thing that you want the character to do. One example of going too far? Well, does anybody else want to answer that one? With John just asked. John just asked how, or Jack's been a subject. Well, it's easy.
Are we looking for an example like in media or just like a hypothetical example?
No. Both. Okay.
It can be both. Okay. I don't know if I can think of anything I've seen recently or anything that would be a good example of going too far. I'm not sure about that, but it is pretty subjective, so it is kind of determined by whoever's reading it. It just depends on really what you're trying to accomplish with the writing, and if you have scenes in there with like overly gratuitous sex or violence or gore that is kind of distracting from your actual purpose, that's what I would say is going too far. It is a little difficult to determine specifically because it's kind of individual, but
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Dom. That it's going too far sometimes. Well, I mean, it depends. Like, um, how do I say this? Yeah, I'm with things like drugs. Obviously, there are stories out there where the character like has died maybe from the drugs. That is very real. That does happen. Um, so yeah, I think it does. It is kind of subjective for your topic, which is also
Yeah.
why.
Another thing with drugs, an issue that might come up is if you write them in a sense that kind of makes it seem like a good thing, like you almost
Yeah,
glorify it. That could be something a lot of people would have an issue with.
yeah. Well, like yeah, like for example, there's we all heard about the some authors only write well when they're high or something like that. You probably don't want to do that. So yeah, you don't want to glorify it too much. Okay.
Also, Dominique's question kind of puts into focus a lot of people like seeing like rap videos. Like they have so much of like alcohol, but we never see them dealing with a hangover.
That's true. I mean,
And it's like that's the kind of like going too far where it's like, oh, it's cool to see it in this like, oh, recreational use, how fun. But the second you start seeing consequences, like no, people get cringy real fast.
that's true. I would just don't understand unless you're me because I actually don't get hangovers either. So, but
I've never had a hangover, but I haven't had a lot to drink generally, so
yeah. But anyway, don't I understand what you're saying though.
So Story Valley Drinking Conference after this, got it.
Well, we could have an after party. I don't know. Okay. So next question is going to be the fun one, I think.
The next question is a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
Spicy scenes. How do you set them up? What levels of spice are determined, or how are they
You
determined?
can answer that.
I think this is for AG. Yeah,
Well, AG, me early, but AG can definitely go ahead.
Well, I guess first and foremost, make sure the characters have established consent, right?
Yes.
Yes. So
yeah. Unless you have a different goal in mind, probably.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. But for consensual spiciness, I think that's a pretty obvious standard to set. But I'd say for let me pull up the question. How do you set them up? This is a topic that's it's extremely subjective. You know, everybody has a different fetish. Everybody has something, you know, that revs their motor, so to speak. But I think again, it's important to nail down your target audience. What do you think? You know, what is it that they're looking for? When I'm writing spicy material, I try to zero in, I guess, on the specific sensations that I'm looking to evoke, and I guess my interpretations on how to best evoke that reaction. But I try to delve into into the actual sensations that the person is feeling, and then also trying to balance that with, I guess, physical descriptions as well. I'm a very visual creature, and I think a lot of human beings also they kind of derive a lot of that pleasure from visual stimuli. And in this case, I would be referring to what we're reading. We like to imagine things, and I think, in my opinion, erotica is very much you're painting an image in a person's mind. So, using a lot of descriptive prose, highlighting a lot of the physical engagement between two characters or or whatever characters that you're using in your book, whether they're, you know, aliens or humans or anything in between. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say on that, but because it's so insanely subjective, it's a difficult topic.
Blue, you want to answer the question about what females are looking for?
Well, female. I'm sorry, I was reading the question. In female and male perspective. Okay, it could be for sure because I think that females tend to, from what my experience is that the girls tend to want to. They like the build up. They like the, you know, up to the scene itself, and you know they like the steaminess. You know, like, ooh, does he like me? You know, like, you know,
They like the anticipation.
Yeah, all the anticipation, and when it finally pays off into your sexy scene kind of thing, you're like, yay, finally. And but what I think the men are more into, you know, the actual scene itself kind of thing because they like it for obvious reasons. So but yeah, so that's probably what I would say they like to do more. I would also want to touch on a little bit too, going with that question of setting things up, was there are different levels of spice, obviously, and so you can have it from all the way to from, you know, hand holding is lewd, or you know, full out vodka, right? So I just wanted to touch on a little bit of that. So if you have something that's really low spice or low heat, basically, I think one of the mass panel talked a little bit about this. But like low spice, and you have your level 1 kind of thing, is that you have you may not have any you might have maybe one sex scene, maybe, but it's usually very closed door, maybe fade to black kind of thing. You know, you might have some like tension, you know, with kissing, that kind of thing, but it's not going to be a lot. It's just going to be just a hint, you know, of steam. That's about it. And then you can go to level 2, which you're going to have some more intimate scenes kind of thing. You maybe more a little bit language, like not language as in that language, but more, you know, intimate language. You're going to have usually at least 2 of them. So you can have, you probably will see maybe not, you're definitely going to crack that door open and see maybe a few details, but not too much. Huh? And then you have like level 3, which is that now you're going to start seeing your explicit scenes. So you're going to see definitely lots more horizontal tangle, lots of detail, you know, like you're going to use your naughty words, you know, so, but you're still very much following the plot kind of thing. That's the important thing. So then you have level 4, which is where you have your balance, your really good balance between your plot and your spice. It's going to be definitely lots of spice, lots of like language. Then maybe you're probably going to, most of the time when you're writing like a sex scene, you wanted to include it in the plot. Like you're going to have a further plot. So your very extreme spice should still have a plot line to follow somewhere.
Yeah, it's like it's any other action scene you want it to actually affect.
Yeah, it's like an action scene, pretty much. And then you have your most extreme level 5. yeah, your level 5 spice is basically plain erotica. It's just porn without plot. That's basically what you're writing. So it's very, you know, like very detailed. It's exactly what you want. It's only that. It's like, I'm going to basically fuck the plot and do your fucking instead. So that is kind of what the their spicy thing is. Yeah. Yes, for more plot. It's an actual tag on AO3, yes. That's right. Okay. Dom has a question here. So what spice scene or setup is considered a turnoff? And is there any example anybody read? I know this. I can read something and instantly tell this isn't realistic. This is a porn scene. All right. Do we have any answer for that?
Well, as far as what's a turnoff, that is pretty individual to whoever's reading it. I would say the best thing you can really do is just try to write it well. And one way to do that is keep track of moving parts, know what's going on, give the reader something to picture, and also maybe keep track of what's going on emotionally with the characters, what's in their head. It's like any other action scene.
Yeah, like it is very individual. Like some people have more, how should we say, twisted taste than others. So
Yeah, well, and some people don't care if it's realistic. That they want the porn, right? They don't necessarily want it to be realistic.
yeah, for sure. So definitely, but this is where the other it's nice to have those content warnings, so you know what you're getting into, kind of thing. Because it's one thing for, like, it's either kind of a huge turn off even for me who likes spicy scenes to maybe be reading a book and it's very like low heat, like like the cheap little like flirting and everything, and all of a sudden, bam, you got you're like level 4, it's like spicy scene. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa, where did this come from? That is actually a huge turn off for me, kind of thing.
Yeah, if you set it up to be one way and then it all of a sudden is another way, it can be
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
You guys mind if I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when you're reading a book and the language is all like really up there, you understand that you're reading like a young adult book. You're hearing really good descriptors. All the prose is very well kept, where the characters sound real. But the second they get into a bedroom, it's like, oh shit, Shorty, let's get this on. Like, no, we're done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So definitely, obviously, everybody has the wrong thing, but yeah, like you're setting up the wrong expectations.
Yeah, you definitely want to meet the expectations you're setting up.
Yeah, for sure.
That's always important.
All right. And do we have any questions before we move on to the next thingy?
I will note that AG did say he had to leave. I don't know if everyone noticed.
Yeah, just see that. Hopefully, I don't know if he'll come back or not, but I can definitely take over his part. Hopefully. I cannot imitate the deep voice. Don't have the shame.
Me neither.
I mean, your voice is deep, but not that deep. Okay, cool. I think the next question is for Pizza for sure.
All right. We're hitting around the halfway mark here. We're going to jump right into it. Horror scenes. How
Horror
to get into
scenes.
them. Yes, not starting with the W, starting with the real H here.
Well, that's a big question. I do mostly write horror myself, so I should be able to answer that. Let me just try to. I have my own process. I don't know how everyone does this, but the way I generally try to get into a horror scene is by, first off, thinking about what actually scares me as a person. Watching horror can help if I know what I find to be scary in something I'm watching or reading, and I take that to what I'm writing. Big thing is to not treat things as if they are leading to horror, right? Horror is about shock. It's about changing the status quo very suddenly and surprisingly. So you bring in a very normal day, maybe, or just something, they're doing the plot, characters are talking, something strange happens, something unnerving, right? And then you kind of start building up the tension. You get to a horror moment, a monster attacks, something comes into play that is, horror. It can be tricky to get it right because tension is kind of fragile sometimes. And if you break the tension with humor at the wrong time, That can completely ruin it. You don't want too much levity in that moment. You can break the tension after maybe they escape or something like that. And obviously, horror, it can involve a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be a monster attack. This is just the example I'm using. But yeah, it's very much about mastering tension. You need to be able to call attention to the right details and give the reader something to picture, but not always go in too much depth, because if you describe something in too much detail, it loses that momentum sometimes. You need to be able to keep momentum, keep the tension at a steady, incline. It keeps climbing until you hit that climactic moment. It's kind of like similar to the 3-act structure in one scene, right? That's how you build the tension up, and then you hit something, and then it kind of drops back down. But
I have a follow-up question for you, Pizza.
Yeah.
So you described kind of building up tension,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the times building up tension can lead to that introduction of something that's not normal, be it for fantasy or horror. It's not a great example, but we have the scene in Twilight with Bella and Edward where she's getting to the root of what he is, and there's this big realization. And it's like, well, that could have gone either way at that point. Is there any sort of like red alarms that could tell you to expect a horror transition instead of just like a fantasy transition?
That's an interesting question. It's kind of hard to say. A lot of the things, like when you do have those little moments of kind of, oh, something's not right here, there's something different going on, it
Right.
kind of depends. Like there are certain, for me at least, I mean, this is still kind of, it depends on who's reading it a little bit, but when I see certain things that just are off, it makes me think, oh, this is going, something big, something scary is going to happen, right? Certain, like when a character says something that's just really weird, like strange, that's out of character, maybe that kind of just hints at something very unnerving going on. It really depends on if the hint is something that is unnerving. That's what I would point to as like probably horror is coming. It doesn't have to be though. Like it could still just be the horror comes a little bit out of nowhere and it can still work. It is better if probably it's hinted at strongly so that it doesn't just come completely out of nowhere. But in like the beginning of the book, for instance, you don't necessarily need to hint at it before it happens, because that could just be the introduction, and that's when you get that. But you should at least, I would say, in like your opening, there should be some inclination, some implications of like something going on, so it doesn't, like, you should know it's horror a little bit before it happens, I would say. You don't want to surprise the reader too much, or else they won't realize they're reading a horror book and then it's a horror book.
So what you're saying,
I hope I
like-
answered that well. I feel like I rambled a little bit.
No, it was good. I liked it.
no, what you're basically saying is that in movies and shows where there's like something scary is going to happen, you have your like spooky music kind of thing, but you kind of want to set up like that in a book, pretty much.
Yeah, music works in movies really well. You can't do that in books as much. It's more about details and like maybe a strange observation or something, right?
Yeah, that's cool. I like that answer. Good job. All right. So we'll get to move on to the next thing, which is also fun. So I will. One of the things that we wanted to talk about too was some of our pet peeves that we see in paperwork stuff being written, and I know sometimes it's super obvious, but sometimes it's not, because you're just going to your own head and trying to write it down. But yeah, so we wanted to touch a little bit on that because sometimes it can be very large errors. So my own personal pet peeve with especially with spicy scenes is that people it they don't realize that spicy scenes are also action scenes. So if you go back to our fight scene workshop with Corey, like he outlined fight action scenes. It's very similar, really. Like, and I realize we're not like hopefully fighting each other during sex, but unless
I mean, if you're into that,
if you're into that, you can. But yeah, you need like a kind of like a little mini thing. You need a beginning, you need an end, you need something, to like move your scene along. It's an action, right? My other thing is that people are not, for the most part, there are some exceptions. For the most part, we are not contortionists.
yeah, the positions,
Yeah, the positions and stuff.
they get pretty crazy.
They do, and sometimes it gets really silly. Like we read a while back, we were actually discussing this with my editor. Not my book, thankfully, but it was something else that we had come across, and which is really, it was really silly because it was the male character. He's on the bed, and there's the girl is supposed to be performing oral on him, and but the problem is that he is lying down, and she is sitting on his lap, trying to do oral sex on him, and you're like, how? Do we have a spine? Like, how are we doing this? Like, are we just like cranking all the way down? That's impossible. We literally cannot do this. Do not watch porn. We cannot do this. So, but by just like, I don't know, if you Google, please Google and not in your main browser. Google in the other browser that does not track things. If you look up like a sex positions, there's going to be so many that are maybe not exactly impossible, but they're going to be so uncomfortable, and they are literally not sexy. So when you're writing, make sure you have a plan of where people are. I mean, really, you can draw stick figures if you want to help you describe it. To see where things are, where locations are. Please do not bend weirdly. It does not work. It is very uncomfortable. And you are going to, if you actually think about, yes, if you were trying to position one of the characters, it's going to be like, nope, it didn't work because it's not realistic. So that is one of my pet peeves, really. Pizza, do you have any?
I can come up with some. I mean, honestly, I don't read a lot of erotica or anything, but I've seen some where they use really weird terms instead of just describing body parts. So
Yeah.
like stuff like that. That's always a little off-putting. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. I know.
Well, what's that? Were you gonna say something?
Like, I know. What was the other one? I was trying to figure out. Like, okay, sometimes this is. Yeah, this one I think is absolutely hilarious. But like, they come up with so many different words. Yes, for your sexual organs, but like. The thing is, I know they're trying not to say, like cock or
Yeah, they're trying to like avoid
whatever.
it,
They're
but like,
trying not to say that, but I'm like, say it really, because otherwise it just sounds so ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, it almost sounds
Really?
childish, like that they're not willing to say it. It's just like, if you're gonna write this, just write it.
yeah, and like it is, you are totally allowed to say it. You know, it's fine.
Exactly.
You just want to say something like a weenie or something. That just going to sound funny, or you like you
Yeah.
just want to say something like, you know, like I've heard
The manhood. Yeah, I see manhood a lot.
yeah,
That's
you've all
it.
heard, yeah, you say man
Or
or
maths, or I've never seen
it's
pickle
just,
yet, but that would be an interesting one.
the pickle is just kind of funny. Like you're not serious when you write that. But
Yeah.
not anyway.
But
But
imagine if you were serious and you said,
for
I grabbed the
words,
pickle.
I find a lot of the words they substitute the proper words for, try to keep in theme. So if it's a nautical theme, we're talking about pirates. Yeah, his mast is going right into her unfurled sails. You know, they'll try to keep a lot of themes together, but at some point, it's like, I don't think your characters are going to talk to each other in the prose that you as an
Yeah,
author will.
for sure.
Like, you're going to just say normal people think. It's fine. Do it.
yeah, I know. It's just like oh my goodness, what was this thing? I'm trying to find this thing. Um, but yeah, okay. Another thing that people seem to write a lot, which I understand also perpetuated with with movies and shows and stuff, especially like things like Bridgerton. Bridgerton is I really like Bridgerton. It's very spicy, extremely spicy. Unfortunately, also very unrealistic because pretty much every single time these characters get together, uh, they, you know, when they have sex or whatever, they actually come at the same time. You're like, seriously, how? And or they make they make every single when they deflower their virgins. It's
Oh,
always
yeah.
done perfectly. You know, it's always done perfectly, and you're like, wow, okay, I'm gonna really like it, the TV show, but you're just like, and it's not actually realistic, so it makes it a little bit funny. You're like, well, I still like it though because I'm able to suspend belief. You know? So, what was the other? I'm trying to figure out what was the thing that John was telling me the other day, which is super funny. Yeah, like I know some people like will try to, some people will try to like pack in so many like orgasms as well, and they're like, seriously, people, like I think after one, most people are tired. So,
Yeah, eight seems like a little much, doesn't it?
yeah. So, but basically, what I'm trying to say, is with your language and all that is fine, but use like, you know, like simple terms. Don't make it weird. But also, I think what works best for scenes like that, instead of trying to avoid certain terms and trying to do whatever, it's really nice to be able to focus on the emotional side of it. You know, where you have your plot come in, unless you're writing, you know, form with a plot, you know, that kind of thing. But it's because that is actually more important than, you know, this body part going through that body part. You know, because if you're making it too technical, it is really will pull you out of it for sure, right? You know, it's kind of like what Peter was saying with horror. You want to have that, you know, like build up the little scary side kind of thing, and so it's pretty much the same thing here. You want to have that emotional connection, and you're like, you know, okay, he's finally kissing me kind of thing, or he's finally, you know, like in bed with me, like, and you can totally make it nice, but you don't always have to make it pretty. You can make it, like, I'm super embarrassed, I don't know what to do. That is totally fine. And the opposite sex will also tell you they half the time they don't know what they're doing either. But
Yeah, you can have more negative emotions involved sometimes. It doesn't always
you
have to be
actually
just
can. Yeah, it doesn't
super
always have
nice.
to be super nice, super, like sunshine and rainbows and all that. So you can actually explore that, because for the most part, you are writing something that moves the plot along. So you can focus on the
Yeah, and it
emotional
moves the
side.
characters too. It's a pretty significant event sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So, which is super helpful. So, rather than focusing on like this terminology, and being like avoidant of something, like lean into the emotions. I find the
Anytime,
best way
any
to like
yeah.
especially thing. So,
But yeah, anytime I'm reading something and I can tell the author is avoiding certain words or certain subjects, unless it's like a kid book, I just feel like it gets on my nerves a little bit. I've seen this with like authors who just won't put swearing in their books, but they like Sanderson, for instance, he makes up his own swear words for his characters to
yeah,
use,
it's kind of silly. Yeah.
and it just feels silly and childish to me, and it puts me off a lot, even though I do like his books.
Okay, I actually just found one. I was trying to find a little quickly with poor John. He edits a lot of the stuff, and I actually found one of the things he did come across, and he told us about it. He found one where they describe, you know, the hard penis as a throbbing meat wand. That's
Oh
what
no!
throbbing meat wand. They're like, oh no.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, nope. And I think there was also somebody was saying, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure they were talking about her boobs or whatever. I think they are. The description was the sponge love mountains hurling to and
What?
fro.
Oh, that's
Right?
disgusting.
Right? So, yes. So that's why I'm like, just
Sponge Mountain?
Sponge Mountain. I know. But yes, like, don't make it weird is what I'm trying to say. So make it weird.
Don't make it weird unless you want it to be weird.
Yeah, but then you're like, you don't want to like have your weird going, what the fuck are you on about?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, everyone. So let's lean into the weird. Does personal experience play a part in shaping explicit writing? Or, if you want to play it a little safer, how would you go about with the research?
Pizza?
Well, I don't know much about the personal experience part, but as far as
Oh, hello,
research,
you're weird.
I am weird. That's true. Okay, I do write weird stuff, so maybe it does have some effect on it. As far as research, I would say talking to people who know what they're talking about is some of the best research you can do on anything. But if you don't have someone to talk to, just cite sources, or not cite sources. You're not telling this to someone else, but just look into it the best way you can. Look online and check multiple sources. Don't just like check one source. As far as like sex, I still think like there's enough people you could talk to probably about that kind of thing. You're not going to find a lot of great research online because it's mostly going to be pandering towards, people wanting to watch stuff. Talking to someone about how it works if you don't know much is probably the best research you could do.
Yeah, I was just thinking about. Yeah, for sure. For me, I actually, yes, even with explicit writing, especially with the spiky stuff, yes, I actually do talk to other people that I might ask, and I may understand to know more of me because, especially with me, I'm a woman. I only know my side of things, so sometimes
Mhm.
I'll actually ask my very patient, very understanding male friends, like, how would it feel when this happened? Or I don't, because I don't know, because I am a female, or I don't know how their body may not necessarily work. And obviously, Google may not necessarily help you, and that's another thing where I know some people try to use porn as their research. You do not
Mhm.
do that.
Not the best way to go.
No, because they're always going to be like, yeah, like they're always going to have like the woman screaming, like whatever. Okay, we do not. Well, some may, but you know, we don't necessarily do that, and you're not always going to like, you know, like do what like porn is very unrealistic. They set this up, and they set up a scene, and that's just not what you're trying to write. So
The dialogue's definitely not realistic. Oh my
no,
gosh.
oh my gosh, no. No. So I think I asked somebody the other day, out of curiosity, I asked if when they write their spicy scene as a man, are they, aroused or not? And does that help? For them, the majority of them said no, they are not. It does not help because they want to focus on what they're actually writing and not other things. So, but I'm like, that's interesting because I am also the same way. I'm like, when I write spicy scene, I want to focus on my plot and my characters and whatnot. I don't want to be distracted with other things.
Yeah, you
So,
don't want to be caught writing with just one hand.
yes. Besides, it's messy on the keyboard. My keyboard is trying to be clean, okay?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. Well, was there anything else you want to add? Anybody have questions or? Oh yeah. Let me say there's alien weird and there's medically impossible weird. Yes, that is
Yes,
true.
that's a
Very
good
true.
point. Yeah. See, I'm the alien weird and medically impossible weird.
Yes, you are. Is there any questions on chat or anybody wanted to pop in and say something? I hope it's kind of useful information here that we've given you. I know it's hard sometimes. People kind of feel, especially the spicy stuff, but also the other thing that we talked about. People are embarrassed to talk about, but really, it's just that it's just a scene like any other scene. Really, it's just it happens. It invokes more emotion sometimes than, but like it's just the same with the other not safe for work topics that we talked about. Like for example, you want like kidnapping, like for example, it's not safe for work topic because they evoke those fears, and scariness, and like that kind of thing. So anything that can be triggering to people, it has those emotional factors that you want to like research and discuss. But yeah, so you obviously want to be somewhat respectful of those for sure. So but don't be afraid to talk to other people. Like obviously ask, is it okay if I talk about this? I have a few questions. John is amazing because he has seen pretty much all of it. Very, very, very bad scenes and the good ones. And he's very nice. So my editor is my go-to for sure with this kind of thing. And because I'm like, I'm trying to write such and such a thing, and this is work. Is this too much, or is this okay?
Oh yeah, he talked me through my cannibalism novel pretty well. So
Yeah. So there you go. Saying clarification, literary cannibalism. Oh, but yes, yeah. So she that's where your editor is always going to be your go-to, basically. Where your critique group can be a good one as well if you know these people very well.
I think beta readers and things can be a pretty good source for if something's
Yeah.
like a little too much or something. That's a pretty good thing to ask them, I'd say. You can also ask your editor though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like if you have beta readers for sure. Like for myself, I've been with my critique group for quite a long while. We all know each other extremely well. So we pretty much know like our taste and our our approach to things pretty much. So sometimes they'll be like, I'll ask Sim, like, hey Sim, I got this question. I got this idea. Is this too much? What do you think? And he'll be able to answer me. It's like you're off your rocker kind of thing. or we were like, let's try.
Let's see. I think he has a question. How do you deal with having your editor read your sex scenes when you're scared to have people read it?
No.
That's an interesting.
Go ahead.
I guess one way to think about it is either you can have your editor read it and help you make it good and better, or you can just have your readers read it without going through that process. I mean, if you want people to read it at all, having your editor read it is going to be a lot better if you want other people to read it too, because it'll actually improve it.
Yes, but your editor, you are not the only thing your editor has seen, pretty much. Like,
Yeah, exactly. He's not. If he's a good editor, he's not going to make you feel weird about it.
Exactly. Yeah, like we were talking with John in a publishing panel, and he said that he actually, I think he was saying he has like 113,000 hours of editing.
Yeah.
Something like that. Right. So, which means that he's seen literally everything under the sun almost. So you don't need to be shy because that is what they're there for. They're going to see like really great writing. They're going to see really horrible, shitty writing, but they're still going to help you either way. As long as you're nice to them and pay them occasionally. Okay, cool. I think that probably will wrap up there. I think we covered quite a lot, and I think it was helpful for people.
I think so. I mean, it's only the two of us now. We lost everyone else. Well, Orlando's here.
Oh, they're just muted.
Yeah,
So for the next few minutes or so, does anybody have any off-ball question? You just want to hear Blue talk a little bit?
You just want to hear me talk? Oh my goodness. Alan. I mean, but yeah,
Okay,
like,
I do have a question.
yes, go ahead.
So we do have a lot of fantasy writers.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the line drawn when certain fantasy species don't exactly go about in full clothing?
So that is a good question. I would say for sure it does depend on your for example, if it's more humanoid, then you probably want some sort of clothes. Or if it's more like if you have more fur, for example, that you can get away with that. For example, like you have your centaur or your unicorn or whatever, right? Obviously, they're not going to be wearing clothes. They can, but they don't have to. But if you have something like if you have like a like if you have your somebody has a werewolf, for example, that is more human than animal, you probably want to put them in clothes of some sort. Like if you have like a werewolf that has just ears and a tail, yeah, you kind of want to do that. So, the other line is the line that we've talked about before a little bit is unless you're into that, how do we not get into the furry territory? So, uh, so yeah, but how I deal with that is, for example, my character is the shapeshifter. Like he shapeshifts all different animals. So, but obviously, if he has relations with women, he's in his human form. He's not like because if we do it any other way, is we're going to go into bestiality or something like that. We do not want that. We want to avoid that. So, so human form to human form is how your best bet for not crossing that line. And so, if you have that's where it gets sometimes tricky with like the furry thing, because if you have your humanoid character that is mostly doesn't have like all it has all furs, like they're all covered in fur, and they have sex with a human. That is that can be definitely could be crossing the line for sure. But I know some people are into that, so if that is where you also can lead into your groups, your beta readers and your editor to make sure that you're doing it properly, kind of thing.
Yeah, you got to know what niche you're trying to get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Okay, I think that we need to hop off so the magic panel can get on. So that
All right.
yeah, but I have fun talking about this with you guys.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for coming. And if you have any further questions, you can drop them in our channel. And because we are in our Safe for Work channel, we do encourage you to use any and all naughty emotions that you want. We are totally for it. Okay, I'm going to stop this recording here, and I will see you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Farewell.